Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chesswise. Today we are at the next topic, that is the knight versus pawns. We are at the third position. We have got a relatively easy position here. We are going to see this position with two different king placings. So we are going to cover two positions actually. This is the position with white to play, and it is a study position. It shows the power of the rook pawn over a knight. For the knight, most problematic is to counter against the rook pawn because there is only one side of the board to the rook's pawn. So white to play and win over here. White has a very simple tactic. We see that h6 is not possible right now. So white goes with the move knight g7 check. Solution itself is very easy, but there are some important points related to it. After knight g7, h6, we see that if knight moves then h7 and there is no way to control the h8 square. But black has the move king f7 or king f8. So after knight g7, h6, king f8 or f7, white has the move h7. When we see that g8 is guarded by the pawn, so king cannot go to g8, knight itself blocks the king's path and h8 is unstoppable. So after the moves knight g7, h6, if the knight moves h7 wins, if king f7 then h7, and nicely the squares g7 and g8, which are the key squares for the rook pawn, are guarded. Another very important analytical or position to be known is after knight g7 it looks like there is kf7, when after knight f5, king f6, white has the move h6. Now another rule comes into play. Whenever there is a pawn and it is going to be supported by the knight, it's best to support the pawn with the knight from a square which is behind it. If the square is ahead, then the king can attack the knight and it will be in the square of the pawn. Here the knight's position to g4 and f5 both would lead to win. And for the rook's pawn there is another rule, the rook pawn should not be far advanced. We will cover that in our next lesson. And now what happens, if king takes f5 then h7 wins, and after the move kg6, although h7 is guarded, white will bring his king and enter from the e5, e6 and f7 squares and win the game. So this position is winning for white. Now let us make one change and see what happens. In the same position, if the white king is on the g2 square, then the whole thing will not work because of a tactic based on the idea that the knight can often gain a tempo with a check and cover the winning square or the square in front of the pawn. Thus, after the moves knight g7 check, knight takes g7, h6, there are two moves for black to hold the game here. One, he can go for the safe ne6. When we see that nf8 is threatened to control the h7 square, and after h7 there comes knight f4 check, king f3, knight g6, and knight guards the winning square of the pawn. King will soon support the knight and the game will be drawn. Also in this case there was the move knight h5. It works in this case because again the threat h7 allows nf4 and g6, and if king f3 to attack the knight, then comes king f7 followed by kg6. The king manages into the square of the rook pawn and the position is drawn. Although the position was easy, it covers some important aspects of the rook pawn over a knight. I hope you are finding these lessons useful. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.